Welcome and thank you for attending. Today is Thursday, November 30th, 2023. It is now 3 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, Councillor Poppe, second. Resolution.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the November 30th, 2023 Special Council meeting at 3:01 p.m.
You all in favor? It's unanimous, so carried. 2, the approval of the agenda. 2.1, approval of agenda, additions, deletions, and excuse. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Levesque, second. And resolution, please.
That the agenda of the council meeting of November 30th, 2023 be approved as presented.
All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? There's none seen. Thank you. We have a delegation with us today. Delegation and presentation. 4.1, Library Board 2024 Budget Presentation. Library CEO Ruth Jones and Library Board Chair Patty MacArthur. Thank you for attending today. Robin's going to be putting your presentation up.
Yeah, and then if you wanted to follow also, the presentation is on slide or on tab 10 in your book.
Green lights on?
There we go. There we are. Thanks for having us here today. I'm Ruth, and I'm current CEO of the Greater Madawaska Public Library and Learning Center, and this is our 2024 budget presentation. It includes a quick review of 2023 to see, so you can see what we've been doing in the last year. So these are some of the highlights. Our focus in 2023 was we did a lot of fundraising and met our financial commitment to the township for the year. We were really proud of that. It was a lot of work. Also, Watersheds Canada, that was one of our big projects to deliver in 2023. We went in with Watersheds on a grant opportunity, and that secured for the township 22 backpacks, a series of reading material related to watersheds and plants and animals in the area. And outreach and community services is always a big part of what a library does. And we focused on delivering watersheds programming and additional programming as well, bringing together our older generation and the kids in the school. We have a lot of volunteers who are seniors and retirees, and it's nice to see the two groups working together. The kids love it. They love it. Our volunteers enjoy it. So it's been really nice. We had 2 grants come in this year outside. From outside, we had a Watersheds grant of $8,000, and that again supported program delivery and resources for the community. And in addition, we received a $500 grant through International Dyslexia Association of Ontario, and that provides access and resources to support learners or readers who are struggling with dyslexia. We also had some non-monetary donations come through the Perth Library. We had 2 mobile shelving units donated, and in addition, a DVD display, a book trolley, and 2 monitors that we'll use for so that people can access the catalog independently while they're in library, which shall be good for the kids in particular. And the following is a slide just showing some of the things that we did this last year. And the next slide just shows some library statistics for 2023. It gives you an idea of how the library is being used. We'll wait for Robin to catch up. You can just click outside the video display box. There you go. So we had 114 new members this year. Our in-person checkouts have increased, which is good. We're seeing more people come in now that we're open full-time. Digital checkouts remain stable, so people are accessing e-resources, which is good to see. It's the easiest way for people in this township, given its size, to access the library. So we'll continue to support those services in 2024. We had 24 library deliveries to Griffith, 600 Let's Talk Science skits come in, and they were distributed through the school, through markets and outreach programs. And in 2024, we expect to see more of the same. Our strategic focus for 2024 will be we're going to maintain staffing, our current staffing model. We'll continue also to deliver our programs. This year is the year that we will address a strategic plan, and that will complement the township strategic plan. So we'll wait to see what happens or how it develops and sort of fall in step with that. And then we'll continue to do fundraising, but we're going to do it on a targeted basis rather than doing blanket fundraising for the library. And of course, we'll investigate grant opportunities for the library as well. So our budget revenues for 2024 will be through the Ontario Public Library Operations Grant. We get that annually. The communications grant too, we apply for, but we get that annually typically. General donations, we expect around 1,500 again this year, and fundraising will be targeted, but we'll expect to fundraise at around $2,000, and we're committing to that number. And then we'll apply to get lot development fees to develop the library again this year as well. So next. Our budget expenses, we've seen a 3% COLA wage increase, which is consistent with what other departments are seeing. And then some federally prescribed increases as well. So that brings our wages up to $119,000 approximately. Our operations has, we'll see some increases in postage, I'm sure, and the cost of program materials, but we're expecting to pay out about $32,000 in operations costs. Our facility costs, we don't expect to change very much at all. So we're sitting at about $21,000, we think, for our facility costs in 2024. So with our revenues sitting at about $18,000 and expenses at $173, our ask of the township this year or this next year for 2024 will be around $155,000. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions, concerns from council? Councillor Thompson.
Just a comment that I was really impressed. This is the first year I've had worked with the board, and I just am amazed with how much you get done and the volunteer engagement, the hours. Patty, I don't know how many the other volunteers put in, but I know Patty puts in a lot. Yeah, it's terrific. Just wanted to comment. Good stuff.
Thank you. Councillor Tripp.
Just to follow up to her comment, the library is quite remarkable when we consider where we were a few years ago, and we were fighting for breath to keep it alive, and a lot of energy went in, and I think it's a testament to the work of you two and the entire volunteer team But it also is very timely. We were at Lucy's afterlife party, or celebration the other day, and she would have been absolutely thrilled to be sitting at this table today, hearing the success that you've had and where you're going and the growth that's come along with the library. But to see the slideshow you did really captures the essence of our community and the impact this is having in the kids and the adults in the concept of it, not just a library, but a learning center. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Levesque?
Just a quick question. Thank you for this. It was really good. On the statistical information, you outlined what kind of numbers we had for this year, but how did it compare with the year before and prior years?
Sorry, we've seen an increase in, well, the patron numbers are increasing, which is good. Circulation compared to last year, we're about 2,000 circulations ahead of where we were this time last year, which is good to see. What else can I tell you? I'm trying to remember the slide. Our digital checkouts compared to last year are stable. They haven't grown as much as I would like to see, so we'll have to promote that more in the library. And what else is on that sheet, Jeff? I don't have it.
That's okay. I mean, just
Do you want to?
new memberships, in-person curbside checkouts, digital checkouts, and then some new items that you highlighted, which is good.
Yeah, we introduced this last, well, in 2022, magazines through Libby. And I'm happy to see that we have as many circulations for that particular service. In terms of foot traffic, I'm still not seeing as many people come through as we would like, but I think that will improve the more we go on. We were closed still part-time until I think it was March when we were finally open full-time hours. So I expect we'll continue to see growth. At some point, it's going to stabilize, I think, but
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Ruth.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, concerns from council? Okay, just a question for you. Library memberships up 114. Do we charge anything for library memberships?
Sorry, not for the township residents, no.
Yep.
There's, for non-residents or visitors, we would charge $20 annually, I think,
Okay.
which is modest compared to other libraries in the area.
And that was sort of transitioning to my next question was, did we get many or any from non-township memberships that you know of?
A handful, I'll say, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the other question, the Libby platform. The Libby platform is an app that is used for checking in and out library books. I don't believe there's any cost to the user on that. Is there any cost for us on the platform to be using that platform?
We pay a subscription to the Ontario Library Service for the use of the app. And they supply the Overdrive platform, and Overdrive supplies the app through which you access the platform. And the platform is shared across all libraries in Ontario and includes ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines now as well.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Levesque?
Sorry, just on the last page on the support request, just curious on the change in the 2024 budget, like the two items, revenues and expenses, what accounts to those?
Our revenues are stable this year. Our revenues coming through we call it PLOG. It's a grant provided by the provincial government. Mm-hmm. And the communications grant as well. You'll see a drop in fundraising because we're going to shift to targeted fundraising. One of the things we find when we're doing fundraising, the first question people ask is, well, what is it for. So it'll be good just to say, we're going to fundraise for this program delivery or this thing that we need for the library. And people, I think, would like to hear that rather than doing blanket fundraising.
So it says that we're down $5,000 for revenues. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
And the expenses, they're not up by much, but just curious, is that just inflation, rent? Like, is that?
Expenses are up primarily because of staffing, the staffing costs. And those again are related to the COLA increase and then the federally prescribed increases as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? None seen. I thank you very much for your presentation and taking time out to be with us today. We are going to be moving into our 2024 Township budget. If you'd really like to stay and watch, or you're more than welcome to head out.
Thank you for the invitation. We appreciate it, but we will go.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to section 5, Finance and Administration Department. 5.1, 2024 budget presentation. Does it sound exciting? Okay. And is Jen taking the lead on this? Our treasurer, Jen Eve, will be taking the lead on this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this afternoon, we're presenting the 2024 operating and a capital draft budget. We're opening the presentation just with some comments regarding our strategic planning, and I'm going to pass over to Renee for some opening comments.
So we just have a bit of a section just about strategic planning. So the intent of this is just to start talking about strategic planning. We have a strategic plan being presented next week, and we want to talk about what I would call building our community. So the budget is based off of a base budget, and we essentially over the time have been just providing core services, so roads, administration, facilities, environment, and fire. So the intent going, I think, into 2023 and now going to 2024 is to really start taking steps to balance core services and building our community to be a safe, vibrant, and active place to live. So you'll see changes in here where they consider possible objectives from the strategic plan. But as we move on into the future years, you'll start seeing that more, where there's a bit of a shift there, where we're trying to provide more services to the township that are more than just related to core services.
Thank you, Renee. So we're going to open off by starting about our budget process. The township recognizes that taxpayers are demanding value for their tax dollars, and a balance must be achieved with increasing level of service, maintaining level of service while planning for the future. And the township must ensure that the services are sustainable now and in the future. So while we do this, when preparing the budget, staff considers many factors, including the past year's actual spending, a significant analysis of line-by-line operating budget items, including trending, any new projects that require financing, a review of priorities, needs versus wants, maintaining or increasing the level of service to residents, and the township's plans such as the asset management, development charge study, etc. So I wanted to point out some 2024 municipal pressures. Looking back over the past few years, the township has had increasing significant financial pressures. Some of these include decreased funding from the government, increased costs of inflation, the asset management gap, infrastructure deficits, debentures, CVA or lack thereof. These are loss of revenues to address inflationary costs, employee retention, and the increased level of service to residents, as well as increased insurance costs. So we're going to move into our property assessment. Again, CVA announcement delayed. So one of the challenges mentioned previously is the delayed CVA assessment. The province announced yet again that they will delay the implementation of the new CVAs. Municipalities are relying on new CVA assessments for a revenue source. However, the last few years, we've been unable to do so. As the property value increases, the resulting assessment is a key component in determining our municipal taxes, which is a large source of revenue for the municipality. Lack of updated CVA values puts pressure on the municipal rate levy. The 2024 property assessment. So for the Township of Greater Madawaska, residential properties account for 97.02% of the township's property assessment. Commercial properties represent 1.4% of the property assessment. Managed forest properties are 0.82% of the property assessment. Farmland properties account for 0.74% of the property assessment, and industrial properties are 0.02%. Essentially, our tax base is mostly residential, and the current value of the assessment is based on 2016 values, as the province, again, has delayed the review due to the pandemic. So from a municipal tax revenue impact, when we consider a tax rate increase, it is important to recognize that a 1% municipal tax rate results in an additional $39,278 in revenue to fund township operations. The impact of 1% tax rate on every $100,000 of assessment on a residential property is $4.50. I'd like to also point out inflationary rates for consideration. So the municipal tax rate increase, our average over the last 5 years is 3.77%. The CPI average rate is 3.42%. Even though we have compared our 5-year, our average municipal tax rate is comparable to the consumer price index, this just emphasizes that we're in line with inflationary, but we're not taking into account growth or asset replacement or enhancing level of service. This is just to keep up with inflationary rates. So even though we've been comparable, we're not looking at enhancing. So for the 2024 levy requirement, the 2024 draft budget reflects a levy requirement of $4,194,471, which provides additional levy revenue of $351,111 compared to 2023. Which is, to fund this, the township requires this levy, which is derived of growth in assessment and a 6.79% tax rate increase. 1.6% of this tax rate is filling the AMP gap over a 20-year period. The other 2.54% is contributed to debt-related assets. Asset replacement alone is contributing to 4.14% of our tax rate increase. The impact of this increase on taxpayers annually is $30.57 per $100,000 property assessment. A residential assessment of $200,000 equates to an annual increase of $61.15. So we'd like to look at our residential municipal tax rate comparison to other comparators in the county, our neighbors. And this chart has been included to demonstrate the township's current and proposed residential tax rate. The residential tax rate is reflective of differing services provided in the municipalities. As indicated on slide 9, a 1% tax rate, it provides the township with $39,278, whereas a 1% tax rate increase in the comparators would provide a much higher revenue. So we're going to move into the overall budget, and we're going to talk about our operating revenues. The township's revenues are 79.54% from taxation revenue, 10.75% grants, 5.99% user fees and charges, and 3.71% of other fees. Other revenues include mutual aid agreements with neighboring municipalities. Overall, the revenues are increasing by $238K in 2024 compared to 2023. The increases are due to assessment growth and tax rate increases and adjustment to fire protection and community service for cost recovery items. We'll move on to our operating expenses. The breakdown of operating expenses by department is illustrated on this chart. Overall, the increases include new debt payments, increased contribution to reserves for AMP, new positions. New additions to the 2024 budget includes a position that would focus on economic development, tourism, and recreation, as well as an increase to the contribution to reserve as per the asset management plan. Our capital revenues. The 2024 capital funding is provided on this slide, which includes funding from the Capital Works Reserve, development charges, OSIF, gas tax funding, and Investment in Canada Infrastructure Program, for a total of approximately 1.56 million. Our capital expenses are 83% of projects are road rehabilitation and equipment replacement as per the asset management plan. We will review these projects in greater detail further into the presentation. We're going to move back to our operating budget. So we're going to get into taxation. So this just compares our 2024 budget to our 2023 budget. We talked about the increase of 351. That is the 6.79% levy increase. Our payment in lieu of taxes are just reflected, are included there to reflect the change in PIL. Sorry. Our corporate services. So 2024 budget versus our 2023 budget, our net operating costs increased by $58,660. Revenues for penalties, interest, bank interest, and special permits have been increased to reflect trending. Our OMPF has been reduced based on updated funding allocation. It's 20,000. And it's important to note here that our OMPF partnership fund reduced our funding in 2023 by 15,900, and now again in 2024 of 20,000. So that's 35,900, which is almost equivalent to a 1% levy increase. Our council expenses increased for interest in conferences. Wages and benefits include employment agreements adjustments, COLA of 3%, and progressions along the pay grid. Our admin contracted services has increased to reflect the share AMP coordinator position with Whitewater Region Township, Maston Bromley, and Bonnechere Valley. Our cyber insurance has decreased to reflect actuals, plus a projected 10% increase. And there is a decrease in staff development and health and safety training to reflect actual trending. So under our protective services, our net operating costs increased by $62,198. And this is, we added in an additional revenue for cost recovery of fire services. Our 2024 budget direction included the shift from a part-time to a full-time fire chief. The increase in fire wages reflect this change and COLA of 3%. Software fees include applications used for communication and responding to calls. And policing decreased by $6,825 based on the OPP invoicing for 2023. Our public works, our net operating costs increased by $4,690. Wages and benefits include a COLA of 3%, progressions along the pay grid, and these lines include the overall cost of public works staffing. Road wages transfers allocate costs to other departments and capital projects, and the capital allocation fluctuates every year based on capital road projects. Our clothing increases to account for increased costs for safety equipment and for the current personnel, and our sweeping increased to reflect trending. We've decreased the road fleets to reflect overall trending of the entire group. In our environmental services, our net operating costs increased by $20,650. And these, there's a shift in revenues due to the Black Donald expansion in 2024. So when you're going through your binder, you're going to see individual lines where you can kind of see the revenue and the expenses shift from one area to another. Wages and benefits include a COLA of 3% and progressions along the pay grid. Telephones have been adjusted to reflect cell phone usage now. We have reallocated contracted services from the Black Donald site to the Norway Lake site to reflect increased usage and tipping fees. The Griffith site engineering fees have been increased to account for design and operation report. This is mandatory by the Ministry of Environment. And there's a decrease in bin repairs that are a result of purchasing new bins over the past few years. So the bins require less maintenance. In our facilities, our net operating costs decreased by $2,070. Our rent revenues have slightly increased based on individual agreements. Our Barnett Cottage rental increased due to trending. Wages and benefits include a COLA of 3% and progressions along the pay grid. And insurance has been increased by 2023 actuals, and we estimate a 10% increase. And there's some minor adjustments throughout buildings due to some efficiencies that we found. Under our community services, you'll see an increase of $18,808. And the township's goal was to provide an increase of service to residents relating to programming. So you're going to see that reflected in this budget. As for the 2024 budget direction, a new position has been included, and this position will focus on economic development, tourism, and recreation. So as a result of the new position, we have included an increase to the revenues in programming. And this revenue is expected to be like sort of a cost recovery of the expenses. So you're going to see like a revenue for 10,000, and you're going to see an expense for 10,000. And we're kind of hoping that we'll be able to have a cost recovery program system. Moving on to our planning and development, our net operating costs increased by $30,446 compared to last year. Our revenues for planning and building have slightly changed. Our 2023 actuals are lower than projected. However, in 2024, our staff expect these revenues to return to budgeted numbers. Our new building fees were implemented in the user fee bylaw updated in September. And we really want to see like a full year of these revenues reflected in the budget. Moving on to non-recurring. So this section includes non-recurring items such as plans, reviews, and projects that are not considered capital or annual operating expenses. So in 2024, we have included the following items. We still have a continuation of our finance system. It's an implementation that we're expecting to be complete by 2024, the end of. The projects, hopefully maybe the beginning of. The project listed above are funded through non-conditional modernization grant funding. And another is the Black Donald expansion, as well as some master studies. Moving on to our reserve contribution. So you're going to see our increase of that 1.6 of the $62,230. This is to fulfill our AMP gap. The 2022 AMP identified an annual capital infrastructure deficit of $1.5 million. So based on the 20-year recommendation timeframe for eliminating this annual infrastructure deficit, the AMP recommended a 1.6 tax revenue increase to fund the township's asset management plan. The adjustment to the contribution to reserves has been increased to reflect this need. And as per the AMP, the 1.6 increase over the 20 years has been implemented to close the gap. However, staff have recognized that 20 years is not ideal and should only be really spread over a 10-year timeframe as recommended by Watson and Associates. So the recommendation for a higher AMP contribution percentage will be brought forward in a future report to council to close the gap from 20 years to 10 years. I just want to make a comment regarding the reserve contribution as well. The 2024 reserve contribution may be affected by decrease in funding from the Canada Community Building Fund and OSIF. These numbers have not been released to municipalities yet. It's closing in on the end of the year. We were really hoping that we'd be able to get something set in stone, but hopefully by the time we come back to the table at December 20th, that we'll be able to have some numbers for you. So under our cost of borrowing, our net cost of borrowing has increased by $99,794. This is due to new debentures issued for the 2023 capital projects. So in 2024, we're finally seeing the principal and the interest hit our books. Now we're going to move on to capital projects. So we have provided the recommended capital items for 2024. There are a couple of AMP items that were shifted from 2024 to 2025 in the long-range capital forecast. Speaking with department heads, we felt we could shift Bluff Point Road and Church Street LCB to 2025, just due to the lack of funding that we have right now. The Public Works Garage in Griffith, as per the DC study, has also been shifted. This project, we would like to build our DC reserve account prior to commencing. And requests from staff also included a wheeled excavator as a new item. However, at this time, we had to consider our needs versus our wants and remove this item. Did anybody have any questions relating to these roads or vehicles that they would like to address the department heads with? Okay. So we'll move on, our capital project highlights. So one of our big projects is Fraser Road, LCB. We provided a map of the area that will be covered. Its total length of the project is 1.4 kilometers. The work involves ditching, new culverts, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and applying new surface treatment, which is an LCB. Our next capital project highlight would be the Madawaska Road, upgrading LCB to HL4. And the total length of this project is 2.5 kilometers. And the work involves ditching, new culverts, guide rail, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and upgrading from LCB to HL4, including the granulous seal of guardrail and sharp curves.
Just before we move on to the rest of the capital projects, I just want to kind of double back to the roads that have been deferred. So as per the long-range capital forecast that was approved in September, the roads are listed there. The intent this year is a bit regarding debentures. So we have the debenture to fund these projects. So the intent will be to have that conversation. However, with waiting to debenture is the reason why it would be delayed. So normally you would debenture, there's no additional funding available. So this would be the either debenture or increased taxes to fund the projects. Okay.
Move on to capital projects under environmental. We're purchasing blue bins. We have a C&D waste roll-off for number 2, and we have our Black Donald site expansion, well repair and feasibility study. Under our facilities, we have the Charbonneau ball diamond bleachers that we're replacing as for our AMP, and we have some, under fire, we have some safety equipment, PPE that is required. So debentures that are tax funded. So we currently have 4 debentures as provided in this table. As illustrated, the interest rates have nearly doubled in the last few years, increasing the cost of borrowing. The loans have also incurred, the loans have been incurred to bring roads, vehicles, and equipments up to date, which aligned with the asset management plan. As mentioned previously, one debenture ended in Q4 of 2024, and another will reach maturity in Q3 of 2025. So I've listed the bylaw and the projects associated and the values, and the debt as of December 31st, 2024, the ending debt value will be $2,879,376. There are some debentures. There will be a debenture development charge funded. So right now, the development charge reserve fund is in a deficit, which is attributed to significant growth-related projects to be completed prior to the collection of the DCs to fund the project. Up to 2022, the development charge was significantly undervalued, reducing the township's ability to fund growth-related projects. In 2022, council approved a higher development charge, and the charge was approved at 90% and phased in over 4 years, fully phased to 90% by 2025. So there's going to be a little bit of a delay before we see some of those come in. And as per the DC study, there are capital projects that should proceed prior to the collection of DCs. Staff recommends proceeding with the DC-funded debenture to fund Madawaska Road in 2024, and the DCs collected will fund the debenture payments. Another option is to delay the projects, which is not recommended for certain projects due to the deterioration of the assets. The debenture will be fully funded through the development charge reserve, and this will have no impact on taxation. So moving on to reserve and our reserve fund schedule. So the reserve schedule provides a summary of the reserve balances, and the 2024 balance includes the contribution to reserve from operating and the reduction for reserve funded capital projects. We have included an estimate of the 2023 surplus under other and unspecified. So we're hoping to end the 2024 year off with a reserve balance of $1,707,615. So our next steps. So where we go from here, council, we've been provided your books. If you could review and provide any feedback, we will adjust the 2024 budget based on council's feedback. There'll be a special council meeting for staff scheduled for December 20th to present the updated 2024 budget to council. And if we need to, we'll have additional council meetings as required. And then our next step would be to adopt the 2024 budget. And we're hoping to do this on January 18th. So this completes my presentation, and I'm ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. Any questions from council at this time? Councilor Levesque.
One request and one question. Can we get all this in soft copy? Okay, that's perfect, thank you. The finance system, you said to the end of 2024?
No, it will be implemented hopefully before that. We've ran into some issues with the supplier. They've been short-staffed, where they don't have the expertise they've started the install, but don't have the expertise to finish the install. We're not the only municipality having the same, there's lots of other municipalities in Renfrew County that are actually converting and having the same issues. They are working with us now. We're hoping we get at a certain point and we run into a hiccup that we have to work through, and then we continue on. So we're hoping to have this implemented sooner than later. It's just, we have to take baby steps with it as well. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, and not just to belabor that, but and just maybe refresh. Is this something all the municipalities in the county are doing, like the same system?
We have, yes, so the system is well known across the province.
Okay.
So we use the system of, we have bigger municipalities in the area that are transitioning to it. The ones that haven't, or that have transitioned, they transitioned to the software. This is the software, and that's the issue, is that there was an influx of modernization funding in the last few years that pushed modernization of software, and the whole province modernized their software at the same time with a company that's not able to meet the requirements.
So I'm IT, and what you're describing sounds not good, but because we've been through this before, but I guess the question is, long term, are they going to be able, once you even get through the upgrade, are they going to be able to support us? Because if everybody else is on the same platform, then...
Right now, it's just a matter of reconcile, like we're moving to a system, so we have to move in steps, right, to make sure that everything's balancing, and we're going slow with that, and you know what, it may take us a little bit longer to do it, but we want to make sure that we're doing it right, and they will be there to support us. I have worked with the company for many years with other neighboring municipalities. It's a wonderful software. It will be very beneficial to us once it's in place. We're just going through a little bit of growing pains trying to get there, but we will get there, and it is a good software, and I would say the majority of municipalities in Renfrew County have converted or are converting to this.
It's just timing. I have a similar, I have 14 years with that experience with that software.
Yeah.
And it's a very good software. The support required once it's actually converted is completely different. It's just the conversion is the concern at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns at this time? None? Just I want to take you back to page, I think it's 49, debentures, DC funded. Up until 2002, the development charges were significantly undervalued. Do we know whether they were undervalued just specifically for our township, or was this across the board in the province, or like, and you may not have that answer for me, but I'm just wondering whether it's a trend that everybody was undervaluing their DC and then it's caught up with us, or is it just us?
I'll let Renee comment on that.
It's not a trend when it comes to development charges. Municipalities normally charge development charges for growth-related projects. So in our case, it was decided when the development charge study came back in 2017 that council made the decision that we would not increase, and we had not increased, I believe, from the 80s, it was still the same value. So we're talking about a development charge worth $3,600 back in the 80s, still being $3,600 in 2021. The calculation to the development charge increase was to the full value, I believe, was $8,500. It was the same calculation. So how when you do a review for development charges, they actually calculate based off projects required for growth. So back in 2017, when the development charge study was adopted, they would have been shown an $8,500 charge, but they chose $3,600. Back in 2022, when we brought it forward again, council decided that we would bring it to a 90% collection. The thing is that every year is a missed year for collection for growth-related projects. When we discuss, and I'm just going to go a bit further, when we discuss Madawaska Road, this is a project in the development charge study. So there's numerous projects in there. Some are deteriorating, and the reason they qualify for development charges is because we're bringing up the standards. So the service levels goes from LCB to HL4 qualifying. But we do need to work towards completing these projects. And it will be a delay on collection from development, but it's almost like growth came in there's already growth here, and now we're starting to collect, which I think that's been a bit more common across the province for the municipalities that chose not to implement the charges required.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns at this time? There's none seen. Wow, Jen, you got off easy so far, until we got time to read it through it all. And you'll probably still get off easy because you did a great job. Thank you. So we will move on to 6 bylaws. 6.1 bylaw to approve. Do we have a confirmatory 73-2023 confirmatory? Have a mover? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Levesque second. Resolution.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw, 73-2023, be deemed read a first, a second, and a final time and passed by council at the special council meeting held November 30th, 2023.
All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. And then we'll move on to section 7, motion to adjourn. We call this the Thompson motion. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp. Seconder? Oh, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, resolution, please.
That the special council meeting of November 30th, 2023 be adjourned at 3:50 p.m.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We're adjourned. Thank you all for being here today, and for those of you on YouTube, thank you for listening in.